What's up, podcast listeners? It's your host, Rafal Matuszewski, and this is another edition of my vlog. If the people listening right now, you won't see this, but for those who are watching, I am currently in San Francisco in my hotel room. Literally just got here 5-10 minutes ago, and I'm like, I need to get this episode done. I need to, you know, um, have this ready for Sunday because this weekend I'm here for a course, the functional release course, where it allows me to do some manual techniques only because I work under the license of a chiropractor and I will be able to do some manual stuff when I get back home. Um, in the clinic with patients, so I'm super psyched about it. And the course goes all the way until Sunday, 3 days, just doing upper extremity. And funny enough, the topic of this episode is the shoulder, and I'm going to be covering that this weekend, so I'm kind of excited. So really, I should do another one after the course. Anyway, yes, I need to get this episode done because I also need to go to the gym. I need to lift. I need to do it. And that's another topic that we need to also cover is training when you're out and about. Um, anyway, we got to do some shout outs. And the coolest thing about this whole shout out thing is that when I clicked my stats, the number one city right now listening to my show is San Francisco. And I'm in San Fran. That is so fucking awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you, San Francisco, for following my podcast. Number two, all the way New Zealand. This city's popped up before. We got Auckland. Shout out to everyone in Auckland and New Zealand. Super, super cool. And number three, all the way in Canada, our neighbor here in British Columbia. We got the city of Calgary. Shout out to everyone in Calgary listening to my show. That is super cool. And for those watching, yes, this is a Mickey Mouse t-shirt that I'm wearing because I freaking love Disney. I had an amazing time. Honestly, I feel like this episode is like I need to catch up with a friend or something, but um this is so cool. I also got, you know what? I need to put this on my Instagram story because I think it'd be awesome. So shout out to everyone on my Cut the Shit Get Fit vlog, listening, watching, and right now everyone's getting a preview of this that's gonna drop this Sunday. So that's it. Um, this is hilarious. Anyway, before I get into this, I need to make sure that I hit up my Instagram story. Anyway, um, here we go. Shoulder pain. Last time, we kind of spoke of the mechanisms behind shoulder pain. So a little review. If you have shitty T-spine mobility, if you have shitty hips, your shoulders are going to take a beating. Now, in this episode, I want to kind of cover not episodes, exercises that you need to implement consistently. And I kind of briefly spoke about face pulls and shoulder cars, scapular cars, and things like that. So, what I want to get into is like a more in depth look at these things. So, first and foremost, shoulder cards and scapular cards should be your best friend daily, daily, multiple times a day. The lame joke I tell patients all the time when they ask me, how often should I do this exercise? I tell them, I want you to do this 10 times a day. And then they look at me like, oh shit. And I'm like, because I know you'll probably end up doing one. If I tell them that I want you to do this once a day, they're never going to do it. So the more, the better. The other funny thing is when I tell them that they need to do this as much as possible. I actually had one person that said, hey, is there a chance, or like, has it happened where people can overdo it with mobility? And I'm like, honestly, no, but I want you to be the first one so I know what amount that is, so then I can tell patients. So you can't overdo it. At least I haven't experienced it with a patient. But um, CARS, for those who don't know, is an abbreviation for controlled articular rotations. It's a fancy way of saying that you're going to move the joint that you are moving, aka your shoulder and your scapula, in the way that you're designed. So if you look at the mechanism behind how joints in our body work, is that the moment you move them, right, you're sending synovial fluid and key nutrients to the joint itself. So I always make the analogy, it's kind of like when you're flossing your teeth and the first couple times you do it, your gums are bleeding, you're like, what the fuck, this is bullshit, I don't want to do this anymore. But you carry on, the gums stop bleeding, and you build up the integrity of your gums. So that's essentially what we're doing when we constantly move our joints. When we move them in the way that they're designed, you're constantly feeding the joint itself, and you build up the health, the integrity of it, and now it's going to move a lot better. So I always tell people, like, most people use their shoulders for this on their phone, for this on their laptop, and maybe lifting their arm up to go grab a cup out of the cupboard. Nothing beyond that. So your shoulder is a dynamic joint. It can do so much. It can reach behind you, it can go grab things, it can pull you up. But if you're not challenging that movement pattern, your nervous system and body goes, oh, you haven't lifted your arm up above your head to go reach for something in a very long time. I'm going to take away that energy sucking movement out of your database because I want to keep you alive. I don't want you burning more energy than you should. Then, days go by, weeks go by, years go by, a decade goes by, and you decide, hey, I'm going to go back to the gym. Since I haven't moved my arms over my head, I'm going to do barbell shoulder press. And then next day you wake up and you're like, why the fuck do my shoulders hurt? So that being said, the lame joke comes into play here. If you don't use it, you lose it, essentially. Our joints, our bodies in general, are built for movement. When we stop movement at the joint, bad things happen. Okay? So shoulder CARs and scapular CARs are a must daily, multiple times a day, and it should be also part of your warm-up. You can do shoulder CARs and scapular CARs in so many different positions, and you can get really creative with it. So I highly suggest you go to my YouTube page and just search up CARs as an abbreviation, so CARS, just like, a motor vehicle, cars, and you will see a plethora, how you want to say it, of different variations along with other body parts. You can essentially put any joint through a CARS routine. And we have something on my YouTube page called the morning routine. And essentially that is what I do daily, moving my body every single morning or later in the day, just getting shit done for my body to remember that my knee joint is supposed to internally and externally rotate, that my hip is more than just a joint that does hip flexion because I sit at a desk. You know, the key for proper shoulders is to constantly move them. The other thing too is a lot of pulling exercises. I can't stress this enough. The more pulling exercises you can do, the better. Because not only from a rehab standpoint, but from a performance standpoint, look at the best athletes in the world. Their pulling power is remarkable. They can do so much when it comes to pulling. Pressing is not as important as you think. You know, sure, bench press, do it. But for those who can't give up those pressing movements, make sure that every time you do a pressing movement, you pull at least with 2 exercises. So I talked about face pulls. Face pulls are literally one of the best ways to promote better postural awareness and all those postural muscles in that shoulder blade, that back, to be a little bit better when it comes to moving that shoulder. Because remember, in order for the glenohumeral joint, the ball and socket joint in your shoulder to move properly, that scapula has to function really well, and those face pulls are going to help with that. Now, actually, a couple days ago, I just posted this face pull variation where in the cable machine, you place a super band that you'd use for like assisted chin ups, so you need a kind of a thinner band. And rather than holding it and gripping the band to do a face pull, which is a variation you can do because you can't cheat with speed. I do this for a lot of guys that I train that are always rushing through things. So with the mechanism around the band and the cable, when you go back too quick, you feel the feedback of the weight kind of bouncing on the band, and it tells you right away to slow down. That's one way to really, really, really target those postural muscles, which is key when it comes to getting things working the way it should. Because a lot of times when people do face pulls with a cable, like with the rope cable, is that they'll end up shrugging because they're like just going through brute force. But with that band, you have to go lighter, and two, you get that feedback right away. Now, to take that, like the next step is to truly, truly get your postural muscles fired, is eliminating your grip. Because the moment you grip, things kind of just set in place. So a lot of times when you eliminate that grip, those small little intricate muscles around the shoulder blade will start working. So now imagine if you have that band around and you place your hands inside and have the outside of the band going around your wrists, and now you're doing a face pull behind you and squeezing and pulling down with the scaps. Now you're going to really fire up those scapular stabilizers, and you can't go heavy with that because you're eliminating your grip that allows that shoulder to kind of be in a more joint centrated position, and you're able to pull more. So now you're really, really focusing on those small, small, small little muscles that haven't probably been used in a long time. Like I recently just put this in my program, and boy, the next day I was sore as shit, and I have not done that in so long. So, homework: shoulder cars, scapular cars, and so many different face pull variations. Again, on my YouTube channel, hit that up. Subscribe, actually. Honestly, I'm going to put that in the show notes. I'm going to start putting that in my show notes, is my YouTube channel, because I think now over 1,000 videos of exercises that you should be doing in your program. That's it for me. I need to get my shit together and work out, and I want to keep this under 15 minutes so I can put this on Instagram Live. Not Instagram Live. What am I doing? Instagram IGTV. That's what I'm talking about. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I feel pretty good today because my Uber driver and I had a good conversation about weight loss, and like it was just so refreshing to talk to somebody not from where I am about their struggle. And by the end of the conversation, he's now following me on Instagram and will be hopefully following my advice and following my workouts, because San Francisco, you guys are expensive. Damn. We gotta get that shit looked at, because people, everyday people, can afford, personal trainers and things like that. So I honestly offered him to like look at my stuff and just follow along. But anyway, that's it for me, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are amazing. Until next time.